You just landed in America after 14 hours on a plane. You're exhausted, your back hurts, but you're smiling because you made it. Your visa is approved, your documents are neat, your hotel is booked, your return ticket is ready. Everything feels in order. You walk up to the immigration booth. The officer scans your passport, looks at the screen, looks at you, and then says the words that can make your heart stop. Step aside, please. Secondary inspection. Two officers walk you to a small gray room. No windows, one table, two chairs. They take your bags, they open your suitcase. And then one officer holds out his hand and says, "Unlock your phone and give it to me." You hesitate. "Is there a problem, sir?" "Just unlock your phone." And in that moment, most people's minds go blank because they're thinking, what's on my phone? You're not a criminal. You don't have anything bad. Just messages, photos, WhatsApp chats with family, maybe some jokes, maybe some plans, maybe some excitement about the trip. So you unlock it and hand it over. The officer starts scrolling. 10 minutes later, he looks up and says, "You told us you're coming as a tourist, but this message to your cousin says you're excited to start working next week. Care to explain?" Your blood goes cold. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe it was a figure of speech. Maybe you meant helping at a family party. Maybe you were just talking big. Maybe you were venting. Maybe your cousin was the one pushing the idea and you didn't even agree. But the officer doesn't see your tone of voice. He doesn't see the full story of your life. He sees one sentence on a screen. And to him, that sentence can look like intent to work illegally or intent to stay permanently on a visa that doesn't allow it. And then it happens fast. A short interview becomes a long wait. Your visa can be canceled, your entry can be denied, your passport can be stamped, you can be escorted back onto a plane, going home after 14 hours of flying, thousands of dollars spent, months of preparation gone because of one message you didn't even think mattered. This is not rare. This is happening to real travelers, and it's happening because border officers are no longer just checking your documents, they're checking your digital life. In this video, I'm going to explain what is really going on at U.S. airports and land borders when it comes to phone searches, what they are actually looking for, what common mistakes trigger problems, what rights you do and do not have at the border, and how to protect yourself before you ever board that plane, without lying, without panicking, and without making the situation worse. My name is Saqib, and you're watching Immigration Newsroom. If you travel to the U.S., plan to apply for a visa, or you have family who travel, this video can save you from a nightmare scenario. First, let's make something very clear. When you arrive at a U.S. port of entry, an airport, seaport, or land crossing, you are dealing with U.S. Customs and Border Protection, also known as CBP. People often say immigration, and yes, CBP handles immigration inspection at the border. But the important point is this. The border is not the same as being inside the United States. Inside the U.S., law enforcement generally needs stronger legal justification to search your private devices. At the border, the rules are different. CBP has broader authority to inspect people and property to decide whether you can enter and whether you are admissible under U.S. law. That's why many travelers feel shocked. They think, I have a visa, I'm approved, my documents are correct. But a visa is not a guarantee of entry. A visa allows you to travel to the border and ask for admission. CBP decides at the border. Now, why are they looking at phones in the first place? Because your phone can reveal intent, and intent is everything in immigration. If you enter on a tourist visa, you must intend to do tourist activities, visit, spend money, and leave. If you enter on a student visa, you must intend to study and follow the rules. If you enter on a work visa, you must intend to work only as authorized. If you enter on a fiancé visa, you must be truthful about the relationship and the purpose. If you enter under the visa waiver program, you must follow those rules too. CBP officers are trained to look for mismatches. Any sign that what you said at the counter doesn't match what your digital life suggests. And here are the most common ways people fall into traps. One of the biggest traps is what I call the friendly request. The officer doesn't shout, he doesn't threaten. He asks politely, Would you mind unlocking your phone so we can take a quick look? It sounds optional. It sounds like you can say no and still go on your vacation. But here is the hard truth. If you are not a U.S. citizen, refusing can have serious consequences. CBP may treat refusal as a reason to delay your inspection, increase scrutiny, or in many cases deny admission because you are asking to enter and they can decide you didn't satisfy them that you're admissible. So most travelers hand over the phone without understanding what comes next. Another trap is the message that proves your real intent. You came on a tourist visa and you told CBP, I'm visiting family for 2 weeks. But in your phone, there is a message that says, I can't wait to start my new life there. My cousin said he can get me some work. If I like it, I'll stay longer. I'm going to look for jobs when I land. I'm meeting an immigration consultant. I'm going to marry my boyfriend and adjust status. To you, some of these may be casual conversation, excitement, daydreaming, talking big, a plan you never acted on. But to an officer, these can look like immigrant intent or intent to violate the terms of your visa. And please understand, CBP does not need to prove beyond doubt that you will break the rules. They just need to be convinced enough to deny admission based on what they believe. That's why one message can become the whole case. Another trap is old photos, screenshots, and forgotten files. Maybe someone sent you a meme about working illegally in America. Maybe you screenshotted a job posting because you were curious. Maybe you have a resume PDF in your downloads folder. Maybe you have a photo of you standing inside a workplace during a previous visit, even if you were just visiting a friend's shop. Maybe you have screenshots of Craigslist rooms, Facebook Marketplace jobs, cash job ads, or messages about side work. Officers can scroll back months or years, and when context disappears, a joke can look like a plan. A screenshot can look like preparation. A casual conversation can look like agreement. Another trap is social media history. Travelers are often shocked when they learn that social media can become part of the picture. Sometimes officers ask for your social media handles. Sometimes they look at what is publicly visible. Sometimes they see what apps you have, what groups you follow, what you've posted, and what patterns show up. Did you ever post, "One day I'll move to America for good"? Did you comment, "I wish I could stay forever"? Do you follow accounts focused on finding U.S. jobs, how to work on tourist visa, ways to stay in America, or marriage for green card? An officer can build a story from patterns, and the story they build might not match the truth you're trying to explain in 5 minutes under stress. Now another trap, and this is important: consent without understanding. When you unlock your phone and hand it over, it can be seen as consent to search the device. Many travelers don't realize they can ask what kind of search is happening, what the process is, and what the consequences are. At the border, your choices can be limited, but being informed changes everything. Because you can stay calm, you can keep your answers consistent, and you can avoid making mistakes that turn a small issue into a total disaster. Now let's talk about the legal reality in simple terms. There is something commonly called the border search exception. It's a concept in U.S. law that gives border officers broader authority to search people and property at the border than police usually have inside the country. That includes luggage, and it can include electronic devices. CBP policy also describes different levels of electronic device search. In general terms, there are basic searches and more advanced searches. A basic search is when an officer manually looks through the device, scrolling through photos, messages, call logs, apps, and files without connecting the device to special forensic equipment. An advanced search is more intensive. It can involve connecting the device to external tools, copying data, or using forensic software. Under CBP policy, advanced searches generally require higher justification, like reasonable suspicion of a violation or a national security concern. Most travelers who face device checks encounter the basic type, but even a basic search is enough to find that one message, that one screenshot, that one document that changes everything. Now here's where people get confused about rights. At the border, you do have rights, but they are not the same as what people imagine from movies. You can ask questions. You can ask if a supervisor is available. You can ask what is happening and what document you are being asked to sign. You can ask for an interpreter if you genuinely don't understand. You can remain calm and choose your words carefully. But if you are a visa holder or a visitor trying to enter, CBP has enormous discretion to refuse admission. For U.S. citizens, the situation is different. U.S. citizens generally cannot be denied entry into the U.S. for refusing a device search, but they can be delayed, and their device can potentially be held for further review under certain circumstances. For lawful permanent residents, green card holders, there are additional protections compared to visitors, but there can still be serious consequences depending on the situation, especially if CBP believes there is fraud, criminal activity, or grounds of inadmissibility. For most non-immigrant visa holders and tourist travelers, refusal to cooperate at the border can mean your trip ends right there. So instead of focusing on a fantasy version of rights, the smarter approach is understand what triggers suspicion, prepare your digital footprint so it matches the legal purpose of your trip, and know how to communicate without damaging yourself. Now, before I give you the action plan, let me tell you what officers are commonly looking for when they go through devices in these cases. This list is not to scare you, it's to make you prepared. They look for evidence of unauthorized work or plans to work. That can include job offers, messages about shifts, messages about pay, resumes sent to employers, LinkedIn messages, screenshots of job ads, conversations about cash jobs, or anything that suggests you plan to work on a tourist or student status that doesn't permit it. They look for evidence of intent to overstay. Messages like, "I'll just stay and see what happens," "I'm not coming back," "I'm going to disappear," or "I'm looking for ways to change status," can raise flags when you're entering as a short-term visitor. They look for evidence of misrepresentation. For example, you said you're visiting for 2 weeks, but you have a 3-month apartment lease screenshot. You said you're staying at a hotel, but you have messages about moving in with someone long-term. You said you're coming for a conference, but you have nothing about the conference and everything about job hunting. They look for evidence that you're coming to do something inconsistent with your visa category, like entering as a tourist but planning to study full-time, or entering as a student but planning to work outside authorization, or entering as a visitor but planning to get married and remain permanently without being honest about your intent. They may also look for connections and networks, who you're meeting, where you're staying, what groups you're in, especially if something else already triggered concern. Now let's talk about how to protect yourself before travel in a way that is legal, practical, and realistic. First, make your digital life match your real travel purpose. If you truly are coming as a tourist, then your phone should not be full of job searches, resumes, and conversations about working. If you truly are coming for a business meeting, you should have emails and calendar entries that support that. If you truly are coming to visit family for 2 weeks, your itinerary, return ticket, and basic planning should reflect that. People get into trouble when their real intent is unclear even to themselves. So the first protection is honesty with yourself. What are you actually planning to do in the US, and does your visa allow it? Second, review your messages before you travel. I'm going to be careful with how I say this. I am not telling you to destroy evidence of illegal activity. I'm telling you to understand that border inspection can misinterpret context, and you should not travel with content that creates a false impression about your intentions. Go through WhatsApp, iMessage, SMS, Messenger, Instagram DMs, Telegram, email threads, Notes app, Downloads folder, photo screenshots, anywhere you might have casual conversations that could be read the wrong way. Look for statements like, "I'm going to work," "I'm going to stay," "I'm going to fix papers," "I'm going to marry and stay," or "I'll do cash jobs." Even if you meant it as a joke, it doesn't read like a joke to someone doing an inspection. If it's irrelevant and misleading, remove it from the device you're carrying. Better yet, don't write those things in the first place if you're planning to travel. Third, check what's stored offline on your phone. Many people focus only on chats, but officers often find problems in files, resumes, cover letters, scanned certificates, job application, PDFs, tax documents suggesting previous work, or saved paperwork from a prior unauthorized activity. If you are a genuine tourist, you don't need a resume on your device while entering as a tourist. If you are a genuine student, you should have school documents, not a folder of job offers unrelated to your authorization. Fourth, take social media seriously. Go back through old posts and comments. Not just what you posted yesterday, sometimes it's something from 3 years ago that gets you. If you publicly posted about moving permanently, working under the table, or never going back, consider cleaning up what's public or setting things to private. Also, don't lie about social media. If an officer asks if you use social media and you say no, and then they see apps, accounts, or evidence you do, now you have created a separate problem: credibility and potential misrepresentation. Fifth, consider minimizing what you carry. Some travelers use a travel phone, not a secret phone for illegal purposes, just a minimal device for travel with essential apps, minimal personal history, and basic travel documents. This can reduce privacy exposure and reduce the risk of old messages being misread. That said, don't do anything that creates another red flag. The goal is not to look suspicious. The goal is to travel with a device that reflects your lawful purpose and protects your privacy. Sixth, log out of accounts you don't need for the trip. For basic searches, what's easily accessible on the device is what gets reviewed. If you don't need certain apps for travel, consider removing them from the device and logging out. If you rely on cloud storage, understand that some content may still be accessible. Again, the point is not deception. The point is that you don't need your entire life accessible at the border to take a 2-week vacation. Seventh, be careful with biometrics. If your phone unlocks with Face ID or fingerprint, it can be unlocked quickly and automatically if you're not paying attention. Some travelers prefer using a passcode rather than biometrics while traveling because it gives you more control over unlocking in stressful situations. You should know how your device works before you land. Eighth, be ready to explain your trip clearly. Most problems get worse because travelers panic and start contradicting themselves. Know your story and keep it consistent. Why are you coming? How long are you staying? Where are you staying? Who are you visiting? How are you paying for the trip? When are you leaving? What do you do back home? If your answers are calm and consistent, many inspections end quickly. If your answers change, officers assume you're hiding something. Now let's talk about what to say if you are asked for your phone. First, stay calm. Your attitude matters. Not because you have to please someone, but because aggressive behavior triggers longer scrutiny. You can ask politely, "Is providing my phone required for entry?" They will often say yes for visitors because they can condition admission on completing inspection. You can also ask, "Is this a basic search or something more advanced?" You are not challenging them. You are showing you understand the process. If they find a message and ask you to explain, do not argue and do not become emotional. Emotion looks like panic, and panic looks like guilt. Say something like, "I understand how that message could look, but the context is different. I am here as a tourist and I will follow the terms of my visa." Keep it short. Keep it factual. Don't start inventing stories. And here's a key skill: don't speculate. If an officer asks, "So you meant you will work illegally, correct?" Don't accept their framing. If you start guessing and filling gaps, you can accidentally confess to something you didn't do. You can say, "I prefer not to speculate. What I can tell you is my purpose for this trip is tourism, and I am returning on this date." Now, what if they take your device? It can happen. They can hold devices for additional inspection. If that happens, ask for documentation. Ask for a receipt or property record. Ask how you can retrieve it and what the next steps are. Stay respectful, but don't walk away without paperwork if they are keeping your property. Now, what if you're facing denial of entry? This is where people make panic decisions. Officers may offer options like withdrawing your application for admission, or in some cases, more serious actions depending on the facts. The consequences can vary dramatically. If you are in that situation, the smartest thing you can do is stay calm. Ask what you are being accused of, and if possible, ask to speak to a supervisor. If you don't understand what you're being asked to sign, do not guess. Ask for an explanation. If you can request an interpreter, do it. And after you return home, consult a qualified immigration attorney before you attempt to travel again. If a visa was canceled or there was a finding of misrepresentation, it can affect every future application. The worst thing you can do is try again next month without understanding what CBP recorded in their system. Now, let me leave you with the most important mindset shift. Your phone is a window into your entire life. Your jokes, your dreams, your private conversations, your plans, your frustrations. But at the border, context often doesn't matter the way it matters to you. Officers see text on a screen. They see patterns. They see risk. And they are trained to make fast decisions. Protecting yourself is not about hiding crimes. It's about understanding the environment you're walking into and traveling in a way that supports your lawful purpose. If you're coming as a tourist, travel like a tourist. If you're coming as a student, travel like a student. If you're coming for work, travel with the right work authorization and documents. Don't carry content that contradicts your own story. And please share this with someone who is traveling soon. A cousin, a friend, a parent, someone applying for a visa. One share can prevent a canceled visa, a denied entry, and a traumatic airport experience. If you want more updates on U.S. visa rules, border policies, and practical steps to avoid travel mistakes, subscribe to Immigration Newsroom and turn on notifications. I post videos to keep you informed, prepared, and one step ahead. Quick disclaimer before I go. This video is for general educational information only. It is not legal advice. Every case is different and immigration consequences can be serious. If you are dealing with a denial, a visa cancellation, or any allegation of fraud or misrepresentation, speak with a qualified immigration attorney. My name is Mark, and this is Immigration Newsroom. Protect your phone, protect your visa, protect your future, and I'll see you in the next video.